So I am John Rearick. I'm a systems analyst at Iowa State University. And a lot of people might know me as an organizer of Drupal Corn Camp and the Drupal Corn Meetup in Iowa. You can usually get a hold of me on Twitter at jrearick. I have a website, babas.com. And speaking of babas.com, might be a good idea later on in this presentation. I'll be showing some demo walkthrough videos of the process of setting this up, and being how sometimes the video quality isn't very legible. You can watch those videos in the slides if you need to. So the link to the slides is pinned up in the chat, and if you want to go down and follow along that way, that might be helpful. So let's get started. What exactly is a static site? It's just plain static files. If you've been around a while, you might think, well, that's just like going back to 1995. There's no databases, there's no server-side processing. It's just you request files and you get files. HTML files, images, JavaScript files, CSS. There's no processing on the back end. So you think about 1995. This is probably a static site. Spacejam.com is still going strong. It even has a valid SSL certificate. So yeah, it's fun going back to that every once in a while and reliving the past. So what is some of the advantages of doing a static site? Well, first, it's super fast. The idea of a static site is basically what some reverse proxies or CDNs do, is that it just serves up static stuff. So if you're not super technical and stuff, and you don't have a CDN or anything like that, maybe this is the way to go. Hosting is easy and inexpensive. You can get it for free on things like GitHub Pages or Netlify. Shared hosting is wicked cheap, and bandwidth is cheap on shared hosting. Trying to run a Drupal site with the database and all the composer stuff and memory on shared hosting is just bleh. It's a real performance killer. So if you don't want to be a sysadmin for the production environment, then yeah, maybe static is the way to go. I don't know. You don't need there's no application to keep updated. All you really have to do is keep your web server up to date. You don't need to manage PHP updates or anything like that. It can go on just about any server. It doesn't have to be Apache. It could be IIS, could be Nginx. It's so portable. There's also fewer moving parts. You don't have MySQL, PHP, or Redis, or reverse proxies or stuff. You can get really good performance just straight up statically. And of course, it's future-proof. I mean, that website, the Space Jam website from 1995, that's still working in 2020. How is that? Yeah. You don't have to, again, you just kind of set it and forget it. Maybe technology will go ahead and things will get better. You notice how spacejam.com looks really tiny now because we have such huge screens and so many pixels, but it still works. It's still there. So there's a lot of advantages, but there's also some disadvantages. It can be difficult to update content, especially if you're just editing HTML files like you were back in 1995. it's not very user-friendly to do. You still maybe, if you don't want to do that, you can have some sort of system that's based on Markdown or Drupal that will do the editing for you, and then you deploy the static files. So it takes a little bit more thought to manage content on a static site. Since there's no server process or even the database backend, there's no real way to handle authenticated users and customized experiences. So, you might have some exceptions with, complex JavaScript applications, but then again, that brings back the complexity of having data stores in remote processing somewhere to keep track of all this information. And of course, since you don't have a database, you can't really collect data. So, like the web form module, you wouldn't be able to just slap that on and start collecting data. However, there's lots of third-party integrations that you can just throw in an iframe and have a form on your site. I know things like MailChimp, you can still do that on a static site. It's just a form that posts somewhere else. There's no dynamic querying. So things like expose filters and views. So if you have a lot of data and you want people to say sort, do a little sort or search, that's something that's not going to be really easy to do on a static site. Also, built-in search is not really a thing. You'd have to go with a kind of a third-party thing. Sometimes a lot of people use like Google Custom Search Engine or some sort of third-party indexing service that will crawl your site and provide you with those results. So what are some of the use cases? One really common use case is to flatten a site, which is to mean you're taking an existing site that's built on a CMS or whatever, completely, it's got database and all that stuff, and you're making it into static files so that you don't have to maintain it anymore. The content's not going to change anymore. You need it for archival purposes to still be available. So that's a really good case. So for DrupalCorn, we do that. We flatten our previous year's websites and we keep those up, and we don't have to maintain, 8 or 9, one more Drupal site every year. We only have to maintain one Drupal site a year. Enterprises might like it to have a complex review and publication process for a site. So if there's like a really strict process on content and stuff, you could actually, have revisions of the website that include the content that can be reviewed by lawyers and marketing and whatever before it, gets through, some sort of review process to go up and online. Again, increased security and performance. For big websites with a small budget, since there's no remote processing, security vulnerabilities and stuff, if that's really, really important that things are super secure and super fast, static's probably the way to go. Oops, did I miss something? And okay, I think I might have messed up my presenter notes there, but some common tools for static site generation. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Gatsby. This is kind of the big thing in what people call headless Drupal or decoupled Drupal. There we go. It's a front-end JavaScript framework for React. And it uses, and Gatsby can be used in other ways, but in the Drupal sphere, it can use Drupal as a backend for all the content. So the idea is that the static Gatsby instance calls back to Drupal using REST or some sort of API and grabs those responses, and it keeps them really small. So there's not a lot of, markup and stuff running over the wire, and it can preload stuff ahead of time and all that fun stuff. It's very popular, but in order to do it well with Drupal, you're going to need Drupal experience and modern JavaScript development expertise working together. So that adds more moving parts, but it can be a good solution for people looking for some of the benefits of static sites. Now, I don't know too much about Gatsby. That's kind of something I want to learn in the future, so we'll see how that goes. Another static site generation tool that you might have seen before, especially if you're a developer, is MakeDocs, where you edit a bunch of Markdown, and it will put together HTML files, put together the table of contents and stuff based on your heading and the file names. It's really nice. You can deploy it anywhere, and it's best for documentation. Again, you have to know Markdown in order to do the editing and stuff, but I mean, you can kind of get away with that in like a GitHub interface or something like that. But it's pretty simple and it's pretty niche to documentation. Some people might have heard of Jekyll. It's based on the Ruby, maybe even Rails, I'm not sure. And it's designed mainly for blog type content. Again, it is Markdown based, so you need to know Markdown. You write Markdown files locally, you run some command, it generates files, and you put it anywhere. So SiteSucker is a tool that we use at DrupalCorn to archive our sites. It's a Mac program found on the App Store. And like I said, it's great for flattening stuff. Some other people might use a similar tool. wget can do a crawl and download all sorts of files and stuff if we get the configuration right. But there are tools out there to help you flatten your site for that use case if you need to. So, Tome. Tome is a Drupal module. It's able to save your entire site, including content, into files. Drupal only needs to run where you make the changes. So say, in my example, I have a free Pantheon instance that I'm going to go take a look at and manage there, and then get the static files out to publish somewhere else. So with this solution, you get, being in the Drupal sphere here, you can still keep the Drupal and get your static speed and security with static files using this, hopefully. So there's a couple of pieces to Tome. There's Tome Sync and Tome Static. Tome Sync does not generate HTML files. It's more saving your content completely as static YAML and JSON files. This is so that you don't have to have like a database dump or whatever in order to keep a site around. And then you come back, bring the site back, and install Drupal using this Tome profile, and it will import all the content and configuration for you. This is what Tome was originally developed to do, but then we went into, now that we have all this content parsing going on, we can generate static HTML. So with that, with Tome Static, you can generate the HTML, you can preview it, you can deploy it, and it's fairly simple. So the Tome workflow for developing static files is you get your site up, you do your content and configuration, and then with Tome you generate the static files, you review it, you download it, and you put it up on your static site hosting, and then you don't have to worry about Drupal being on the front end. So it probably is a little bit easier to look at this. So I got some demo time here, some quick walkthroughs of the process on how to use Tome. So I got a video here if you're following along. I'm kind of going to try and live narrate the video here. So 3, 2, 1, clicky. All right. Here I have a regular Pantheon site. As you can see, we're on the development tab here. And it's a basic brand new site. I added a commit to add the Tome module. I did a little configuration to define where the static site files are going to be located. And you can't really see it too well on the stream here, but in settings.php, there's a setting that you can put in that says Tome static directory, and you can define that place for where you want those static files to go. If you don't make this change, it will try to put it one level up from your document root. So if you're in Composer, it'd be next to like your config file or config directory in composer.json file. All right, so let's take a look at the site here. So we got a basic Drupal site with a couple of nodes on it, which is really cool. Flyover camp, great, awesome. So the first thing we want to do is install the module. So we saw we installed it before. It's just a single thing you put in your modules directory like any other module. You see there's a whole bunch of different things. We got to make sure we choose Tome static. And it'll say you need Tome base as well. So let's just go with that flow. All right. So now that we have it all installed, the next thing is to go up and do a configuration. So on to the next video. In 3, 2, 1, play. So if you go up to configuration, after you install the module, there will be a section in there for all of Tome's configuration. There's 3 different things in here. You can generate static site, download static site, and preview static site. So let's take a look at generating the site here. Here you'll see, confirm that you got the setting for where the directory it's going to put your generated files at site's default files, and I think I called that Tome. And then the base URL is the URL that you want your site to be living at on production. So here I'm going to say example.com. I've modified my local Etsy hosts file to direct that to my local host so we can fake it. And so it builds real quick. You can click on preview to take a look at it before you actually deploy it anywhere. Great. It looks like you're on there as an anonymous user, which is what we wanted, right? All the links seem to work. But we have this thing, we have this login link that doesn't do anything because it doesn't make sense to log into a static site, and the built-in Drupal search doesn't really work because you don't have a database. We'll get back to that later, but we're going to go along with this and see what the deployment process looks like. So now we can go to the download tab. When you click download, you get a nice tar gzip file with all the static files for you. If you open that up, drag this in over here, uncompress it. And in your directory, you've got index.html. You got the RSS feed. It picked up on that. Sites directory where you have a bunch of images. And so I'll go to my document root. Right now, there is nothing in there. So as I look here at example.com, there's nothing in there. And apparently it has directories listings turned on. So deployment, you can do this via FTP or whatever. Click and drag, upload the files. And then a little bit of stuff because of my environment, I have to change some permissions or make sure the permissions are good. Real quick to make sure the web server can read the files. And then once that's done, I can come back here and refresh the page. We should have, there's our content. It's our static stuff. Everything's on example.com. You can see here we're at node 2. Take a look at this image. It's being served from example.com. It's a complete static site deployment. I hope that was pretty easy. And of course, we got the same problems with search and login don't work, right? So maybe we'll take a look at that next here. All right, so you want to redeploy, right? We're going to make some changes and redeploy this. So I'm going to play this video in 3, 2, 1. All right, so we go back to our Drupal site, and we want to go through and remove all this interactive stuff that doesn't work, right? There can be, you can still have this stuff on your Drupal site. So say if you still wanted search for your content editors, you could change the permission on the block, and that would hide it from anonymous, and you can still use it. And then the login link, we don't really like to show that to all of our users. They should know where to log in. It's a completely different site. If you wanted to, you can make a static link back to, say, Pantheon or something, but that might defeat the purpose. And here I'm going to generate or create some new content real quick just to see some other things change. So we'll add a node here. Drupal corn is cool. So we can have awesome and cool things and neat. So corny, it says. And just for fun, we'll throw in a picture. Make sure we do the alt text correctly. All right, that looks good. And of course, we've got the node page. We've got the thing in the recent content. It's on the home page, so it's going to, update a lot of different pages. So let's go ahead and generate this. Again, we go back to configuration, down to the Tome settings, generate a static site. And it remembered example.com from last time, which is great. Hit the submit button here and give it some time to crunch the content here. All right, it is done. I like to hit a preview before I go much further here, just to make sure things are how I expect it. Drupal is cool, is there. Search box and the login links are gone. Links are working, images are there. All right, cool. Exit the preview. And let's download the stuff. All right, my downloads folder has another one, so it puts a 1 in there. We'll get the document root up here. There we go. Again, just copy, drag and drop. And of course, you'll want to replace any and all of the existing files that you have there. All right. Quickly make sure the permissions are good again. And let's go to example.com and see how that went. Just hit refresh here. Awesome. We've got our new content. No search, no login, and Drupal corn is cool. All right. So this is great, but it's kind of a pain really to, what do you call it? Download a tarball, unzip it, copy it via FTP to get up and out. So Tome has another module that you can go out and download. It's called Tome Netlify. So it's a separate project on Drupal.org. And if you're familiar with Netlify, it's kind of like an easy, cheap hosting service. I didn't know about Netlify until I learned about Tome, and they use that as an example. But with this, you can add the Tome Netlify module and be able to deploy to Netlify directly from your Drupal site. So I have a little demo on that too. So 3, 2, 1, play. All right, in order to get this going, I already installed Tome Netlify into the code base. So we just need to enable the module. All right, and if you haven't already, you should create a Netlify account and all that stuff before we get started. I kind of skipped over that part for brevity, but just like any other service, you can figure out how to make an account on a website. It's pretty straightforward. So once you have your account there, you're going to want to go to your dashboard, which is usually app.netlify.com. And then here you can create a new website by dragging and dropping the site folder. You only need to do this once in order to create your site. So what I do here is I'll just grab that folder that I did earlier and drag it into the drag box, and it'll do the initial deployment for you. At this point, you can do custom domains if you want. If you already own your own domain, you can put it in there for free, or you can buy it here, of course. You know, you got to make money somehow, right? And then they also do SSL certificates through, what is it called? Let's Encrypt. So it'll keep that up to date for you. But for now, they have this generated host name. Was it Upbeat Ramen in some hash? So we'll want to remember that. I copy and paste it into a text document, so I have that. So that's our live URL. And then we're going to need some other information. The site ID or the application API or site API ID. You can do that going to general in your site's settings here on Netlify. You see API ID, we'll need that. So we'll copy and paste that into the text file as well. And then once we have that, we can start putting together the Tome Netlify connection. So we'll go back to our Drupal site here. And then when we go to configuration, you should have a new option here with all the other Tome stuff. Deploy to Netlify. So when you go here at first, it says, oh, hey, it hasn't been configured yet. Click here to configure. It's nice to have links like that to help you out. So it's going to need two things. It's going to need your site ID, which is the API ID that you just copied down. So we'll go ahead and paste that there. And then you'll need an access token. And it gives you a nice link into Netlify to be able to generate one for you. And so here I have one for flyover demo. Generate a token. This is the only time you'll ever see the token, so be sure to copy and paste it into a secure place. A password manager would be a good place. But since this is just a throwaway token, I'm just going to throw it in the text document there. Add the access token that you just copied, and you should be connected. All right, so let's go back to configuration again. All this is just like a one-time thing, and we should be able to go to deploy here. You can give the deployment a title. It's nice to know what you were doing. So we just deployed. It gives you a helpful link to go preview it on Netlify. So Netlify has deployments, and this one, has like a hash dash in the host name. So this is a preview of the deployment. So it's deployed to Netlify, but it's on a different host name for now until you actually make that deployment live. And so since we changed our host name, we probably should change our base URL here as well, come to think of it. So that is why we copy and pasted that thing. We'll generate the site again. All right, preview it. And this is a bug I've seen. When you change the base URL, sometimes you need to clear the cache before it picks up on it. So don't be too worried when you see your preview not working. Just a quick clear cache will fix things like it does for everything in Drupal. All right, let's go back and generate this again and make sure the preview works. All right, let's check it out. This one should work. Awesome. It looks exactly like it was before. How about we add another piece of content, I think. Just to make sure it looks different and we know what's going on. So we'll just say, now on Netlify. What should I put in there? Yay. All right, save. We're there. All right, let's generate this again. It feels like you're going to kernels of truth in that statement. Yes. Corny jokes in the chat. This is great. All right. Preview should work, of course, because we didn't change the base this time. We got the Netlify stuff post on there. Looks good. Now we got the deploy tab. Click on, give it a title so that you can tell it apart from the other deployments that you have in there. So I'll just say now on Netlify because that's what we added. And supposedly the deployment can go, what do you call it? It's a diff only. So you don't have to upload all the stuff. So it can be a lot faster. So now that it's up on Netlify, and Miles, yes, you can deploy via Drush. We see, okay, we've got now on Netlify that we just deployed. We can go ahead and publish that deploy. And of course, Netlify does have like an API that you can probably figure out how to automatically make a deployment live if you want to do that automatically too. And so now we're on our live environment here with the new content and everything. It's pretty neat. You can see that it also has, all the content is being served up from there. It's secured by an SSL certificate. Since it's on netlify.app, they've got their nice wildcard one there. But I also have a different site up here. I can show you one that I've done before. Static.babas.com. I'm working on making this a static site. And we see it's managing a Let's Encrypt certificate for us. I don't have to renew any certificates. I don't have to run certbot anymore, which is great. It's just kind of a set it and forget it, especially if you're only making a blog post once every couple of months. You don't have to drop everything to do an update on your site like happened yesterday. All right. So that is what I got. Thank you for listening. I'll turn my video back on, and any questions, comments, discussion? Yes, Eric. You can totally do it locally. If you have a local development environment, you can just have your own little Drupal site running on your local and deploy it from there. That way it's completely behind your firewall and in your control. The custom domain is free so far, but I'm always kind of hesitant about services that offer you all sorts of free stuff, because then that means you're probably the product. So at some point I want to try and figure out how to do this by sending it up to like a shared hosting or something. So trouble with pagination in the past. I don't think I've really had an issue with that. If I go to this static site, this is the example site. Am I still sharing this? Oh, I'm sharing the tab, not the click on that. I do the window. Come on, application window, share. Sadness. All right. There we go. So I think I have a pager going on here on blog. I scroll down here. This is just a default one. It seems to work. Now, if your pagination is, am I still showing? It shows me. You can still see the example site page now, right? Okay, good. So yeah, default out of the box. I don't know if it would be smart enough if, say, instead of having it as a in the path, if it is smart enough to do the query parameters. So I know some pagination works on query parameters. So that's definitely something to look into. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? I don't know if Tome has lunar search, but that is definitely the de facto search tool for static sites. I know the Make Docs thing does do a lunar search for you. And I would imagine it shouldn't be too hard to do, considering it's, if you can just get lunar search on the Drupal site and it does stuff statically, I would think it's possible. You'd probably have to run the lunar index before you generate the site to get accurate search results. All right. So that was 44 minutes. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you all.